Hello, hello. How's it going, everybody? A little bit behind here. Still trying to get set up a little bit. It's been last few days have been kind of a lot. Littlest got sick again. Classic ear infection and congestion and whatnot. So that's been fun. So a little bit behind schedule A and behind on sleep. So we'll see how. I mean, focus is always in question, right? I don't. We don't mind our digressions here, but we'll see how productive we end up being. Sometimes when I'm like real sleep deprived, you know that sleep deprived brain misses things that shouldn't or wouldn't normally be missed. Okay, what do I need to do here? I need to set a couple things up, and then we'll get rolling here. So we have been the past couple weeks, we've been looking at a plugin for Verso. Verso is a library, or maybe more. Definition is maybe perhaps a little bit murky, but it's a thing that's built on top of Servo. Servo is a like different browser engine as compared to like a Chromium or WebKit. So I guess this is what Blink and WebKit. Is that what is Chromium technically on Blink? I don't remember now. But either way, Servo came out of Mozilla. They were building it sort of like side by side, experimental, in tandem with the work they were doing on Firefox. Corporate things, it got split off. Now it's more of open source, purely open source. And folks have been putting energy into it, which is cool to see. And one of the things built on top of Servo is Verso. Verso is the thing around the browser, the Chrome, as it were. And there's also some, it makes it easier to potentially use for other situations, which we've been looking at the past couple of weeks. Tony, who we had on the stream 2 weeks ago, he worked on a plugin and has been working with Verso to use Verso as a way to implement Servo as an alternative to the system WebView, which is cool. But the downside is it's kind of experimental still, which is to be expected. It's going to it takes time to get to feature parity, especially when the amount of investment, either time or money, which translates into time on the thing, helps determine that. But it doesn't make it unusable. And we tried it. We got some things working, and it seems potentially pretty close to be something that we could use for our stream app or stream to-do app. And it would be cool to do that. But the component library we're using uses some libraries that rely on the international daytime. Come on. Yes. Kitty's needy today. Come on up. Come say hi. You're just gonna scratch my knee? Oh, there we go. All right. Hey Nicola, good to see you. And so what we stopped with last time we tried to throw it in our to-do app and see how it worked. We ran into this issue where we were using a priorities, Nicola, right? Hey Kat, also hey Jacob. I don't I understand that priority. As much as the cats can be a lot sometimes also. I can't ever get rid of them. This one can especially be pretty needy, right? Don't you touch my water though. I don't need another big mess. I've cleaned up enough those past couple days. Okay, so we tried it. It had some APIs that the component library we were using expected but weren't present. And I'm wondering if we can do some of this. Polyfilling, if you're unfamiliar, and it was more prominent a decade ago now, I guess. Um, Polyfilling is the act of importing or including code with purely with the intent of providing some sort of feature parity additional feature on top of the browser. So um, it was important when the browsers were not well aligned. They've gotten a lot better. Updates have been more the the way they're set up to help folks continue to keep the browser updated is improved. So the folks using the browsers tend to keep them more updated, it seems. And also, each of the browser vendors have gotten pretty close to parity, at least not nearly what it was back, a decade ago or whatever. And then at some point, there was a little bit more like Babel became a thing where folks wanted to try out newer APIs that hadn't quite made it there. And Babel was a way, um, it wasn't technically a polyfill, but in some ways it kind of was, because they were essentially saying, well, this browser feature could exist or may exist in part, but not in full. What happens if we just implement it ourselves, like in client code, and ship it to all the browsers? So that idea or that concept or the need may be stronger in this case because, I mean, yes, you kind of do still need to think about if you're relying on the system web view, you still have to think about the browser, and they might be slightly different, but it's not terribly different. There are potentially benefits to using one over the other, which is why folks are working towards providing options. Especially when you get into like Linux or some of those more eclectic operating systems, the expectations or performance profiles of some of these browsers is potentially substantially different. So options are good. So what we want to do today is, what does it look like to pull in or otherwise polyfill? And when we do that, we don't necessarily need that to be always applied. If we're using a browser which has a feature that we're polyfilling, we don't need to apply it. So there'll be a little bit of like, let's see if we can get our app to work. And we'll see how far we can get with that. And then I want to start poking at like the idea of we could potentially rely on the plugin system within Tauri to help us use either features or operating system mechanisms to conditionally include the polyfill. So we could do something like if feature Servo or feature Verso is turned on, then include the polyfill. So we could have 6 different types of potential build targets, like big 3 operating systems, and then the system web view version and the Verso version. Publish all of those and just dynamically include the polyfill where we need it. So that's what we want to look at today. But until we flip on over here real quick, we need to look at polyfill libraries. And I need to get my keyboard over because I haven't. Let's unplug this one. Been trying to use the split keyboard a little bit more often. And I use it pretty nearly full time on the Mac. And we just started bullying it on stream more specifically. But it does stay effectively full time plugged into my Mac. So I gotta, now whenever I stream, I gotta move it over, which is kind of unfortunate, but like, is what it is, I guess. Let's do this. So I need to, well, having more time in the morning would be helpful. I didn't really today, but I got to be more specific about making sure that I get this stuff moved over before the stream starts. I feel like I feel like I've kind of been constantly playing catch up for a while here. As soon as I like get something in place or get some habit in place or consistently doing something, then I end up losing it because other life things come up. Okay. Little bug. We've got these what are they called? Snake plants. And one of them has these like little gnats, which like the main way to get rid of them is just to let the soil dry out. But like the snake plants are succulent, so the soil's already pretty dry. And it just happens to be like 5 feet from my desk, so occasionally I have these like random little gnats that are flying around in front of my face, which is annoying. Okay. Key map. All right. Boom, boom. All right. I suppose we can let's do this. So I did switch my layout. So now I've got well, here I can go like this. We got technically it's 0, 2, and then 3. But then I also have like Mac mode. So this is Windows, and then I've got a Mac version. So my Mac version, then I only define the keys I need to change. Oh, I was like, wait, why are these Windows keys? These are Windows keys on Windows because on Mac they're the command key. So that's why I ended up doing that. Whoop, this one. Windows. Okay. All right. I'm like 95% like full time on this keyboard. The problem is there's still a couple like hotkeys or macros or whatnot that I used a lot, and I didn't realize I used a lot, and I had that committed to muscle memory until I tried to use them, and I go, I don't remember the key combination anymore because it was just muscle memory, or the key combination is impossible for me to press based on my key layout, which is a fun discovery. There's a couple where I need to hit the plus, like when I'm zooming in on a thing, I need to do control and plus. I don't have a control on this layer, and that layer is the only layer where I have a plus. So I still end up sneaking over to the other keyboard occasionally out of necessity, effectively, but we manage. All right. Speaking of which, so on Windows, at least I have I got the scrolly wheel. Let's make that wireless. I was charging it before. Hi. Come on. You're coming up? Coming up. I gave you. They're if y'all have cats, they're very specific about, at least mine are, about routines. So if they like don't get their water or their food, then they bug me. But also we've got 2 cats. Sometimes so the one was like bugging me the whole morning to feed him right away. I gave him food and water, but then the other one, this one, didn't see that happen. So is like, wait, hey, you didn't fulfill your duties today. What's the problem here? Fix that for me. And it's no water. Cats. Okay, so we should have some stuff in here. Speaking of routines and things that I kind of got out of, we've been filling out the to-do thing, which I have been mostly liking. But I fell out of the habit a little bit, I guess. Okay, so we did Set up the stream. Sure, fine, whatever. We will call it that. What we're gonna go through first is see if we can get Polyfill working. And then we want to make it dynamic through Rust. And that might be what we push for today. It's not going to be too involved. In part because I do not have the brain/focus today to do that. Okay, so did we do the things? Oh, you know what? I forgot to. I opened up Discord to drop the links, and this is also a good time to otherwise call it out. Forgot to drop the link. For a while we have had, no, not question mark, exclamation mark. Okay, that's a lot. No. For a while we have had in the Tauri Discord, I hate that. I need to like turn that snap off. I don't ever use it. We have had a thread, and I've been dropping the links in there. That being said, though, we now have a Discord as well. I had it for this specifically for the project. We've been over time working on a project called Finatter, a finance app, open source, and I had mostly made it for that. But I've kind of opened it up, the Discord specifically, to be a little bit more encompassing of the things that I am interested in or otherwise work on or do. So it's a little bit more like, if we've seen a topic on stream, it might be a conversation that we have there. And if we want to talk further on stream and continue conversations, especially about topics that only come up occasionally on stream, that's a good place to have it. So if you're into Discord and you do the Discord thing, we will drop a link momentarily. Where? Oh, here we go. This is another to-do item here. We need to get a link. Here. I got a link here. Feel free to drop in the Discord. We got a few folks. A lot of the familiar faces that I see pop on have joined, so it's been neat to see, and I would love to continue conversations. So join. All right. This is kind of where we left off last time. We were running into a situation where international.duration format was not working, and I'm presuming there's some like lack of implementation. So the reason we were poking this was because it didn't exist or was throwing an error in Servo, so we're presuming that is the problem. We need to open up here. Let me open up a couple things real quick. I don't have short links here, so I don't want to. The Windows search is not great, and being able to like control, especially privacy related, leaves something to be desired. So let me just get that open and go from there. Also gonna open up our stream to-do list here. Okay. Boop. There we go. All right. I was pulling this open. We actually We can probably cross that off. I think after today, we're going to set Verso aside, at least for the time being. I do want to start touching on CEF a little bit. CEF is Chrome Embedded Framework, and there's been movement there as well, which is exciting. I want to go through that on stream, but I'm still sort of figuring out schedule for that. So maybe one of these things next week, or a group of these things next week. But I also might just do we might talk about Finatter as well. In part because I need to like catch up on everything. What are you doing over here? She licks my green screen. I don't understand. Okay. Let's see if we can get the Tauri app up and get this error rolling again. npm run Tauri dev. Yes. You come up and say hi for 2 seconds. Okay. And the reason I pulled up Firefox, again, Servo sort of built with the intent of like eventually becoming the lower layers lower layer of Firefox. Its expectation is to work with Firefox DevTools, which is fine. In reality, though, it ended up being like piecemeal pulled out, depending on where progress was made or whatnot. But here's the error, and we can yes, come on up. Do you want cuddles or you want attention or what? I don't know if you can see her paw, but she keeps putting her paw up on me. She has got her nails too, so sometimes she gets a little excited and the needle poke is surprising. All right, error at components. International.duration format is not a constructor. So my presumption is that we're running into this issue because I maybe having a way to like look into it, but my presumption is that we're running into it because duration format is like undefined, or international is undefined or something like that, and that this error is in some ways helpful, but not like obvious what the root cause is. So that being said, let's open up the dev tools. Is it like about? And inspect, build config cache. Are we gonna have to look at about a list of abouts? Oh, that's actually I appreciate this. What? Okay. What? Debugging. Here we go. Connect. I'm assuming that hasn't changed. So let's hit connect and see what happens. Yeah, looks to be the case. All right. So, here's our app. We get our body and head. And what I want to check is we should be able to look in the console and look at the window. So if we do like window dot, okay, it's an object. What about window dot? What is it? International EINTL. That appears to be defined. Is so international. Okay, what? Why doesn't it let me like view this? What about console.log? It's kind of Interesting. Persist logs, timestamp. These are evals. Multi-line code editor. That's actually kind of cool, but I don't need that right now. Can I not actually inspect it very well with their dev tools? Yeah, because all the normally, like if I was looking in Chrome or something like that, I could open this up and look at the window object, and it saves like a snapshot that you can look at. These are doing evals, but it's not actually returning anything. Dir. And we want to try window again. Okay, dir is not a function. So what would be another API we could look at? What about console? No, we'll do. We don't actually have to specify window, but like window dot math dot max 1 2. Okay, so if we do a console dot log window dot math, yeah, nothing. It might be like this might not specifically be. You can see here it's like pointing to servo dot 00 or 0.0.1, which feels a little bit odd, but like this may be a servo thing. This might not be a Firefox DevTools thing, which is kind of unfortunate. Like it says it's an object. We can just do like a international dot. Actually, if we go like here, MDN international. Can we copy and paste a little snippet here just to see? Let's just see what it does. So if we say new date, okay, that looks, it's kind of weird because like these buttons seem like they should do something, but they're not. Let's try their multi-line dealio here. If we go like this, got it. Run. Okay, and okay. It ran. It didn't. It didn't produce the results that we were expecting, but it ran. EN US. Oh, yeah. I mean, this might just be like a weird, like time zone kind of thing, depending on when you run it. This may or may not actually be correct, but date time format. Okay, so something works. The duration format though did not. So let's try. Do they have an example here? They do. Let's try that. We can then. I like this. I dig this multi-line thing. It makes it really easy to do this. And we see international duration format is not a constructor. So I think we do need this polyfill. If we look at the inspector, let's double check and see if we're even getting this. We tried to pull the polyfill in. We do need the polyfill to exist prior to trying to load the React Spectrum stuff. And it doesn't appear to be the case. So what we end up attempting to do is make sure that that function exists. If it doesn't actually exist by default, like that browser doesn't support it or the API doesn't exist in the browser at that point, we want to make sure our function is loaded prior to all of our other code running, because all of our other code running is expecting that to exist. It's expecting the browser to have defined that already. So we like, I don't see it in here at all, which is interesting. So here we're doing a create root. We have an import. This has been included. I think we did an npm install. So it should exist. But we're not getting the actual. I'm not seeing it come through, at least. If we go back over here, I just want to double check. Is this? I mean, their copyright is supposedly current still. I mean, this is about what I would expect. I think honestly, it's been a hot minute since I looked at polyfills. So I assume that this looks like a good thing to import. Okay. So guides, develop bundling. So that's with Babel, and then there's a TS loader and a transformer. We might need to end up doing something like here's a roll up. We can add it in and roll up. Yeah, and you can see there's a before transformer. So it's actually transforming. Interesting. So the question then ends up being, wait, React International, polyfills. Oh, that's different. Okay. We were looking at the docs for format.js. But format.js also puts out a polyfill. Okay. That's why I was like, what is going on here? Okay. So we do need the duration format. That is the thing that's throwing the error. Okay. Cat hair on me. End of my tongue now. So duration format appears to be the bit that we do need. There is a duration format, which is what we have pulled in, and we did the import. So simple, this is a dynamic. So this is an option. We could do something like this. The thing is, this polyfill then needs to exist in every binary. So even if a web view or in whatever implementation we're pushing out doesn't need it, it would still end up existing in the binary unless I think Rust is going to end up being our ticket there to make it a little bit easier to pull in a polyfill dynamically based off of the variables that we care about. This might be part of the issue too. So like international datetime format, duration format. So we need to make sure these other ones exist. So if they don't, then we are stuck. Nice. All right. Callback, filter polyfills. Duration. International. Dot. I don't see it. Date time format and display names. International dot duration format. Is it not actually on the list here? That's kind of unfortunate. Okay. Okay, well, we potentially need to think about this. So if we're pulling in duration format, there's some expectation that we have the other pieces in place as well. We need list format and number format. So if we go into, let's close this and sure, whatever, fine. If we say new international dot duration format. Okay. So if we don't have a list format, I would expect the same error. That appears to be set. And let's do number format. Number format. Okay. Those seem to be fine. So I think it's just this international duration format that we're having issues with. So we need to somehow get this in place prior to the rest of our app loading. This is using Veed. We can potentially, actually that might be a better thing to look at first, real quick here. Duration format Veed. There might just be a there might just be like a Veed plugin for it. Veed plugin. Moment duration format. This might be a rabbit hole that's not worth going down, but this is potentially an option. Yeah, I think we want to try to stick to like a single thing, and say, well, I guess that's the other bit. I want to stick to a single thing, as in like a single import, but also if I just import this, is it actually going to, like, do I need to run this through a bundler is the other question. It looks like this polyfill.js is the ticket. And if we look here, index.js, and it is exporting require TS slip. Export star require source.core. So we might want to potentially look at our import here. This should actually, let's double check. Is there an exports? Should package JSON. Dependencies, author. So we only have a main. Main is our only entry point. And that means that we should be able to then, if we do this, it is importing specifically just that polyfill, which would be the polyfill.js. So I think that should be fine. But we need to make sure that that's actually showing up in the DOM first. So let's go back here again and just double check. We have a Vite app, and then like right away we're getting into this is all text CSS, so that might still be fine. I don't know if I can't imagine that would affect the CSS. So we just need to make sure it exists before the JavaScript. There's a lot of CSS imports here. Holy. Text CSS. Okay. So the first thing it's actually hitting is the main. Why I can't click that? Okay. The first thing it's hitting is the source.main.ts. Okay, well, that's unfortunate. Let's look here. Main dot. So like in theory we should be hitting that. Let's just. Why is that not? What is my hotkey for this? We want to do control. Oh, there we go. I changed that actually just yesterday. I switched my slash from like one of these buttons down to or up to this one, and ew, error. Oh, okay. Ow. Hello from ESM after a Vite config.js change. That's kind of neat. Hotkey already registered. That's fine. So like it's actually starting up and running some bit right before keep alive. So StarFX setup. So all of our other code is running. So it's starting to hit these bits. Yep. Okay. Let us just get something like rendered to the screen. Connected. I suppose I could do a let's do a create root dom node dot render, and let's just do like a hello world. Yeah, I guess we just do like a div. Is it? Yep. Hello world. It's questionable if it's actually showing up there or not. In part because I'm not sure if it's actually showing up or not. It could very well be rendering it. I doubt this is actually the issue. So there's a couple bits here that could be going on. Like this, we might actually we might need to actually set like a background color here or something. Depending on what our CSS looks like, it could actually be rendering something, but also I don't see anything in here. So it tells me that there's nothing there yet. Whoa. Debug target was disconnected. Interesting. DevTools actor stopped responding. Whoa, that's a fun one. Error uncaught exception undefined. So something is kind of going funky here. Let's do a restart. It doesn't seem to close the Verso browser, which is a little bit annoying. If I do that, it does. So, you know, it is what it is. And it connected. Okay. All right. All right. Are we good again? I'm just curious, like, is it actually going to render any? Oh boy, that's not what I wanted. Okay. Yep. How do I edit as XML? No. Delete duplicate attributes, add attribute. I just want to change the internal bits. Okay. Can I? Whoa. 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 What is going on? Okay. Close. Reopen. Fixes everything, right? But it doesn't seem like it's connected again. Weird. Still says it's connected. I like borked the inspector though. So let's do one of these again. Cancel. And open this. I mean, like, this is the reason things are marked as in many ways, like, it's marked as experimental because you might be missing pieces that you need for production. But also, the dev experience is also experimental. So stuff like this is going to happen. It is what it is. All right, we're back. I was trying to add something there just to see if it was even rendering, but like, whatever. Okay, so we're assuming that it's rendering. Let's double check the inspector. Are we getting? Are we getting the? We're getting. That is weird. It's just like disconnecting. DevTools client handler. So this could very well be a DevTools actor stopped responding. This could very well be something with Verso or downstream and not specifically React, or excuse me, a Firefox DevTools. Okay. Let's ignore the DevTools for the moment. We are getting it running and it's not actually saying there's an error. So that's something. We're also doing this disable menu, which could potentially be causing issues. We're not caring about CSS right now, so let's like strip all of this out and let us what? Okay, I guess I just want to do all of that. Let's just do this import and just get a baseline. We'll get a baseline going. Have something loading, hopefully rendering, and if it doesn't, then next steps. Connect. This. Okay. It appears to be working. I should be able to do just like a console.log so we see something. Hello from file. Sure, why not? we have something. So in theory, we should see the okay. Try that again. Oh, okay. I guess just restart it maybe. I mean, it could very well be something with the polyfill too. I have done no research into specifically the APIs that are supported. So it could very well be that we're like polyfilling one, but not another, and that's just throwing a really hard error. So there's a React refresh viewport. Yeah, like we got that script module. It, in some ways, doesn't even seem like we're running that. So we're doing this polyfill. In theory, we could like in theory we could edit the node modules and see if we can get a log out of that. Actually, let's just do this. What if I put it in the index.html? Let us. That's fine, I guess. Well, like, what if we just put it directly in a script tag here? I don't know how V's gonna like that. Import declarations and we only appear at top level of module. Yep. Okay. Okay. I mean, can we just say type equals module? Okay, it didn't complain about that at least. Hello from file. Let's clear and then save. Just make sure. Okay. But I also have this one here. So let's delete this. Let's delete this. Clear and okay. It appears to still be running this. If we look at our inspector, we have a script, but it's not the script we're expecting. It's almost like there's still some caching going on. If we edit the index.html, let's. I'm not sure how. Like, is it going to bust the cache for us automatically if we edit that index.html? I'm guessing potentially not. And we've run into this in a couple other situations where, like, I wanted to do a patch or something similar, but getting that to work with Vite, because Vite has this like temporary map type stuff to help with performance. Which, I mean, I appreciate the help of performance, but it also means that we can't muck around with in our node modules as easily, changing bits and pieces where we need to. Oof. Okay, it crashed. There are definitely things that like we just can't do. Close. Get rid of this again. And go back into here and inspect. Now, I'm not going to click anything. Seems to be a so React refresh runtime viewport. So this I think is our HTML proxy index.js. I'm not going to click on it. There's nothing in storage. We are saying hello from file, and it does say in the index.html. So I would presume that we're getting something. So what if we do then let's do one of these. the duration format was the bit that was throwing the error, right? If we chuck it in here, all it's doing is logging out. We would be able to look at the format const. So what if we just do like a const a equals, and then a console.log a. This is interesting. Why does it think this? Is duration format just like that new of a thing that the default set here doesn't actually expect it to be defined? Or is it actually doing something where it can see what Servo needs? That would be surprising to me. I don't see a reason it would do that, but I'm certainly not going to rule it out because black magic sometimes ends up like appearing to be a thing. All right. We get logs. That's something. And it doesn't throw the error. So maybe we bring some more of these bits in. Let's pull this. Let's not pull that back yet. Let's do these. Oh, you know what? I didn't have React imported here. Was that part of what's causing us an issue with this first render? We will pull this in, and then we'll do one of these, and let's make sure those bits are imported. Init and type. Sure. Okay, already registered. Okay. We're still not seeing anything appear to render, which is a thing. Okay. Whoop. What if we just bring all this back? It's not throwing an error. It appears to be better than before. Ooh. Oh. We got a render. We got something. So the difference, it must be something with how Vite is bundling it, or otherwise like dropping it in here. So by the fact that we put it in the index.html means that like this is ensured to, or otherwise, it'll process the HTML file like top to bottom. So it will like try to load these before it gets into this. So by the time it hits the script, it will have run and completed before this, presuming you don't have like one of the other tags, because there's like defer and preload, etc., which can change that like top to bottom order a little bit, but it's logging the things, it's doing the things. We're getting something here. It doesn't quite seem like our forms aren't working. I'm not seeing any specific errors. This hasn't actually updated, so it's not real time per se. Like, I think now I'm questioning myself, but like in the Chrome dev tools, if a script modifies the DOM, you'd see it here, right? We don't. So that's interesting. And we are getting an actual error. So this might be part of the reason that we're getting that might be part of the reason that we're getting an issue here. It doesn't actually say where that error is. The bug. Debug. we need to debug this. There was literally a little gnat flying around. Is this the line? Is it this? This might just be like a slightly awkward output. Error, uncaught, exception, undefined. So that might be referring to this on line 127. Is that how I'm reading it? If we look at setup, store setup, line 127. Do we have a file? Is it creating a file for us? We have a dev. We have a dev file. For like it seems to exist. Oh, well, it exists, but like, so what's throwing an error? Stream with to-dos. To-dos 0 is undefined. It is not entirely clear where that error is coming from. I mean, I would have been incredibly surprised if it just worked. Maybe incredibly is a little bit too much, but if it had just worked after that polyfill, I would have ecstatic, maybe a good way to describe it. As far as my expectation goes, because this is like the React Aria and React Spectrum, which I believe is built on top of React Aria. They use the platform as much as they can, but then they build on top of it to improve accessibility where it falls short. So there's some expectation of like it's being built on evergreen-ish browsers. Possibly the same with star effects, which is where this error could be coming from. So it's coming from, oh, can I click on that? Setup 127. Is it actually going to work and take me to it? Yeah, kind of. Okay. Well, I tried. I don't know that that's actually where the issue is. Setup 127 doesn't feel like replace. So it's saying file list is on to find. I don't know that it's worth debugging it. It doesn't seem to work. We have a test in at least. There's something. It's working. There's something. What time do we got? 10 after. Let's see if we can inject this just a little bit more dynamically. Because I want to see if we can do like configurables or like dump it into a plugin. We did, and then actually now that I think about it, we never ended up taking it any further, but on stream, probably it's got to be months ago at this point. July. We're almost done a year. My goodness, does time fly? We were playing around with the idea of a plugin, and the intent here is we wanted a plugin to inject the IFE, which is like kind of default format if you're using globals. what we were playing around with specifically in this case was like, what if we do that, but with a specific intent to like inject a thing in there that we could see in every web view, so as to, in a similar fashion, we were looking specifically at testing what if we could inject something that allowed or made it easier to help execute tests. So if we had a bit that could communicate with something in our tests to do user actions, that could potentially be a way we could um, basically have some sort of test framework that works directly within your Tauri app, uh, which is probably going to be the upside is that it is going to be as close to real as you can get, or nearly. Other than like writing something to do the actual clicking, it's going to be very close to running your app and having the like full API service and going down the real code production paths. No mocking involved. The downside obviously is you then have to like run your app in CI or run it in for your tests, which if you don't have an incremental build, that's time. That's time to compile. So there's trade-offs, as there is in everything. But we got this index.ts, and we set a roll up with the intent to export a bit that we could then import. Which where did it end up landing? Cargo build guest permissions roll up source. I don't think there's much going on with these. I lied. These are the bits to okay. Um, this plugin initialization. So we needed that to, in the same way you do like the builder when you're making like a base Tauri app, the plugin interface has a similar setup, um, although slightly different. And you can define the same bits. So like we have an invoke handler, so the plugin can define a command then that if you pull in the plugin, you'd be able to use that. And then there's also the setup. So this app.manage test harness is referencing the state here. I don't know that we actually need that though. I think the main bit that we need here. So there's the init. Initial, no, never mind. We don't need that. Like if we were to just copy and paste and have a thing that we could inject polyfills. So like we're doing this in our base Tauri app. We're doing this, which will call the init method on that plugin. And that plugin ping will do this. So register, okay, test harness handle. The handle comes from, oh, so if we're just targeting, oh, this is my mobile.rs. If we're only targeting desktop, lib test harness and net this. So this is the bit that we need because we are then doing this bit, of which we call app.manage and give it test harness, which is a trait. Okay, build. So where's the iffy come in? Ping. Okay, test harness. This is the desktop one. So doing this would give us access to that ping and that command. Where's the if you actually pulled in though? Like if we only wanted, if the only thing that we actually cared about was this iffy, like this, can we just get this to show up? Do we need all the other bits is the question here, I guess. Ah, here. This is what I was looking for. Build.rs, Tauri plugin, builder new, global API script path, this. So I don't know that I necessarily need to set all of those bits up, but if I do that, if we chuck that here, what does that look like? Like, can I literally just do this? We don't want an API iffy.js, but we do potentially want a, what is this complaining about? No method name. Okay. Do we need to import something? Where'd my browser window go here? Commands. Builder, Tauri plugin. So is that just a Tauri plugin thing? I don't think it is. Let's double check. Let's just search. And plugin dialog, global plugin, Tauri plugin 2.0. Let's look at the main Tauri API. So maybe it is only a plugin thing. Unfortunate, but you know, it is what it is. Let's double check here. We have a search, yes. Plugin development, global scope, calling Rust, global shortcut manager. I'm not sure why the plugin global shortcut, I guess because it is a global in the word. That's, you know, it is what it is. Permissions, global scope. Yeah, just the fact that it's global in it. What if I put some quotey quotes around it? Why aren't you Wait, there we go. No results. Okay. So I think we do need that might just be in the plugins. So if we do, we want to inject an iffy, right? That would be kind of the dynamic piece, and then we could this would be a polyfill. So we would have we could potentially write like a plugin for polyfills, and the plugin would then based off of the context. I mean, you could do this within the plugin and have all the macros directly within the plugin. So you just like add this plugin and it like works. But we could also do the like config variables or config macros, whatever they are. We can check for if Verso is installed, or we can check whatever in our app state as well, and just dynamically include this little plugin that we can spin up. Let's see if we can do that real quick. I'll give it We'll see if we can spin it up in like 10 minutes here. We need a. Is there no way? Can we like create a plugin really quickly here? It's been a hot minute since I did plugins, and yeah. I would say I thought there was a command that we now could generate a plugin this way. So if we do npx to bootstrap a new plugin project. Okay. Plugin configuration, build plugins. This will initialize the plugin at the directory this, and depending on the used CLI flags, the resulting project will look like this. Okay. So if we do npx at, I guess we don't really need to do the Tauri apps /CLI. Plugin new. I need to hit my keys a little bit harder here. If you want to initialize the plugin with Android or iOS support, use --Android or --iOS. We don't need that. If you do not need the npm package, do we need the npm package? Use the --no API. We might. So let's go ahead and roll with that. We're just gonna call it Polyfill. Polyfill. And we'll copy that bit over, and then we'll see if we can get it working. It would be kind of nice. So we don't need an example. Go away. Guest.guest.js. We might be able to just grab this. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to delete this. And we're going to do that. Now, I don't know that I need to do the rollup.config.js. I'm also not 100% certain how it's injecting it, so we'll sit on that for the moment. But I think I can make that .js. Blah, blah, blah. Just to get it to stop screaming at me. And Saturday Tauri, blah blah blah. That's fine. I don't actually need these, but I do need that other API. Where do I have it now? Here. Bada bing, bada boom, bada blam. Now, if we look in guest.js /index.js and permissions, default permit. Okay, I don't really care about that right now. Build a new polyfill, blah blah blah. Okay, so a bunch of what we did last time was just generated for us, which is fine. We don't actually need these bits because I think we're going to just try to use it directly, which means then that if we go back to our app, we can use it something like this. So if we grab that now and put it in, let's close a whole bunch of stuff. If we put it in our main source here, can we do this? Whoa. So it will do Tauri plugin test harness. It's not test harness anymore, so we do need to change that. It is polyfill. And we might need to update our cargo. You see, there's this like path arg thing here. That is perfectly fine. So we'll do this and this and poly. Wow. Okay. Polyfill. There we go. Now let's run it. We'll see if this works. Got folks asking questions, so we'll see if this works and go from there. Failed to get Tauri plugin polyfill as a dependency of package stream to do, caused by failed to load source for dependency, unable to update. Failed to read. Oh, it's not in plugins. Yeah, I just have it as a root project, so that makes sense. Let's give that a shot. So this path is from the cargo.toml in source.tauri. So we are going up one directory level, and I just have it in the root. I don't have like a plugins directory. In the other example that we had, I made a plugins directory so that we could in some ways it was like a test to see what it looks like to do something like a test harness, but also I wanted to see okay, so it didn't load. I wanted to see how is the experience basically doing like a local plugin. Okay, that doesn't look great. So there's not even like a tab. Oh, there we go. Okay. Inspector. If we look at the head, I don't know where it's going to show up in the head, and that's part of the issue. If we're injecting this, is it going to show up? Like where does it end up showing up? And does it actually, I guess that's the other bit. What we have, we're doing an import. The iffy would actually, okay. We're actually going to run this. We're going to run this real quick, check to make sure it works, and then we're going to call it. We're not even getting the hello from file, so it's definitely not loading it as we would expect. But that's in part because we need I was expecting the iffy stuff. Read file sync, plugin TypeScript, process path, CGS, ESM. This doesn't seem like it's actually set up to do the iffy, which is fine, I think, because we can copy it real quick from here. Input, package name, node resolved, Terser. I think I can copy this. Well, that's gonna. Because this is the build we want. And the reason we want this is because we want it to be an iffy, because we wanted to put it on the, oh, this puts it on the window. We want to immediately invoke it. Iffy var name. Okay. So we check and then we inject it if it is. Value iffy var name. So this, we're expecting our function or whatever to run to then return this variable. But we don't actually need any of that. So we can just do, we can do this, we can do this, and we can do this. We'll just give it a build. We'll get this API iffy. That's fine for the moment. And then we'll roll from there. Okay. We need to go actually into CD and plugin. Nope. What did I call it? Tauri plugin polyfill. And we need to run this real quick so we get the build. We might have rollup available. We'll just try it. npm run build. Cannot find package. npmi. It's a little weird. I've got like a nested thing going on here, but cannot find package. Yep. Okay. There's always a thing. There's always a thing. We need node resolve cursor. We need this. TypeScript. Okay, so we haven't updated any of these other bits yet. All right. npmi. In reality, I'm not actually using the node part of it, other than like I need some of these pieces here for working with rollup to then generate this piece, because I need the define property should polyfill duration format and that. And like this whole thing is executed as an iffy, so that when we inject it, it'll be immediately executed. Now, if we go back here, we have Tauri plugin polyfill. We need to make one tweak in our build.rs, because this needs to then be API iffy. Okay. We need to go up one directory level. npm run Tauri dev. Fingers crossed. So if it works as expected, we should then see nothing's popping up yet. Not a great sign. I'm expecting this to be like injected. Now, it is also possible that this API doesn't exist yet, because this is kind of a, yeah, so we're getting that error. So we have this, we run it through rollup, which makes it an iffy. Iffy is this IIFE, it stands for what? Immediately invoked function execution? Is that what it stands for? It's one of those things that like, I know what it is, so then I just forget what the actual thing stands for. What does iffy stand for? Expression. Immediately invoked function expression. So that means that we have a function. When we go to load it, it then executes. So we've basically done a require, and then otherwise imported it, which should then, like, their import is also an iffy. If we look at node modules and at format.js in duration format, we're doing polyfill. So we have a require, a define property, and then it imports or does a require for the index. So if it's not defined, then it defines it. So like it is expected to be run immediately when it loads, and that's, I think, in part why it worked fine. So depending on how it like gets bundled can potentially affect this, which is why I don't think it was working well when we were putting in our TypeScript file or our .tsx. But if we put it in the index.html, it was working because it was basically defining these things. Like it would hit this part, load the script will run and immediately define these properties. So we need to do that if we're injecting it in a different manner. So the intent here was that we would write or add it as a plugin through this IFI. This IFI would execute the function immediately when that is injected. We would then get these properties defined, in which case we could use them without problem. The intent was that this would then happen through the plugin. So the plugin would fire off. We could do config variables, so like there's this debug assertions. So we could do something like, if it's Windows, add the polyfill. If it's Mac, don't add the polyfill. In reality, we'd do a little bit more like, if we're doing this Verso thing, then we might need a polyfill. So like add it in there. And in theory, we could do that like as part of the Verso plugin. So we could potentially say, like, if you're using the Verso plugin and you've got this, then just also inject these scripts. But it could very well be that we don't even have this defined, because what is set up here is we have a Tauri builder, but it's Verso runtime. So we're like using the runtime through Verso, not through I guess Rye. So our builder is actually slightly different. So it might not actually have, I'm like, there's not feature parity yet. So like it might not even have this as a feature. So doing this global injection this way might not even be possible yet. And it seems to be the case. We're not getting it loading at all. Like I'm not seeing it in here at all. So I think there is this check here. Do we need to include it or not? If we look here, like they've got the functionality to check. We could do that. We could put it in the browser and it'll only polyfill if it needs to. So that gives us some dynamic polyfill working. We could deploy to potentially multiple environments or with system WebView versus not, and still get the polyfill as needed. So that piece at least would always work. The downside then is that this always needs to be in every binary. By going the route of putting it in a plugin, like it's the same concept of tree shaking in the JavaScript world. You can make different bundles, like a modern bundle and a legacy bundle, and depending on which features that browser has, you could load one bundle versus the other. That's your code path split. And then the modern bundle could just not include a bunch of dependencies or polyfills that are required for the legacy one. We don't really have that convenience in a Tauri app, because you kind of want to not make any network requests, at least for that type of stuff. The intent of the app is that the app pieces are bundled. You might still need to make a fetch out to a database or something like that. That's, potentially to be expected, but to get some of these pieces. I mean, you could still do that, but in reality, especially with a polyfill, it's not huge. You'd probably end up just including it in every bundle, which is unfortunate. But I think this API with the IFI and the plugin doesn't appear to work now. I think it's going to be useful in the future though. Yeah, like we're getting this. It doesn't seem to be injecting it at all. So I'm going to assume that the API doesn't exist yet. So right now we can't do it this way, but I think eventually this might be a nice way to do it, because then we can do, actually, let's double check. Does the example that we're pulling from, does it have, do we do the dynamic bit? Because that's the other part. Especially in this case, like if we're doing, no, it doesn't. If we're doing a test harness, we don't want to push a test harness or bits that are related to testing out to the user, because they shouldn't be using that code. I mean, you know, bug builds might be a different story, but that's a whole different topic. So I think eventually this is going to be nice. We'll probably like chuck it up just as a test piece, so we have something in place. And I'll, you know, we'll just say this does not yet work with the Verso setup. Not yet appear to work with the Verso setup. And this might be one of those situations where it might actually be quicker to polyfill a bunch of these. Like if it's at 80% and you only needed to get up to 90%, it might be easier to include a couple polyfills for the newer APIs or APIs that just haven't been fully fleshed out here yet, as opposed to like waiting for Servo to catch up in that department, or you know that part of the code or wherever. So it might make sense to like poke on this a little bit more. I don't think I'm personally going to be spearheading that, but maybe eventually. If Tony ends up stopping by, I'll throw this up in a PR at least. We'll keep it open in this repo. The dev stuff, you know, some of this stuff might not actually even work, because we've got hard coded paths. So like work on your machine. So like if you run this, it might not even work, period, without the Verso bits. But like just the fact that like if we can get this dynamic injection working through the plugin, I think that would be a really neat way to provide additional steps to get somebody to or enable somebody to actually use Servo before it's ready. Obviously, don't ship it to production unless you really understand the consequences. It is still marked as experimental, but the closer we can get folks to at least trying it and having something that works, even if it's just like a toy hobby app, you know, the more things issues we're gonna resolve and find, and you know, help push the thing forward. I think that's what we're gonna call it though. Got more meetings, things to do. But we did get something in loading and rendering. Cool. Yeah, and that, I mean, presuming your shipping is Verso, you're already bundling a browser. So a polyfill wouldn't be the end of the world. A polyfill in the Verso app would not be the end of the world. Like, that's not a big deal. The slightly bigger annoyance would be if I have to include that polyfill in my main app. So if I end up doing like or pushing out a version that has system webview and a version that has Verso, just as like, here's an experimental build if somebody wants to play around kind of thing. If I can make the polyfill happen at the Rust level and then be injected through Rust, it makes it a lot easier to say, well, when I'm doing a Verso build, include it. When I'm doing a system web view, don't include it. So if you were putting it in, if you had to make a bundle that was shared between the two, and you included it in the system web view version, I mean, like, I can't imagine that this is even that big. Like, let's just check that real quick. ls, does that work from here? ls la size, yes. So if we do ls la of ./node modules at format.js. Now this is everything. Oh, it's clipping it. Size files. Okay, let's do a. Let's just. Can I just make it bigger? Will that work? I'm not quite sure why it's clipping it. Oop. Here. 4 kilobytes. So honestly, like, if you really wanted to support it, you can make it work, and you could do the should polyfill. It'll only include it if it needs it, and you could just ship an extra 4 kilobytes and everything. And like, keep in mind, you might need a couple of these pieces, so it might be more like 20 kilobytes or 50 kilobytes. That makes more of a difference when you're on web. In an app, that's less of an issue, especially if you're doing something like if the Linux system view doesn't work or isn't working for some folks, and you could offer Servo or Chrome embedded as an additional or as an alternative, and those would end up needing a polyfill. An extra 50 kilobytes in every bundle is not going to be the end of the world. It's ideally, it's not ideal, but like, if you're going to enable folks in that way where you can get more folks testing out your software or using your software, it's probably going to be worth that trade-off. So yeah, seeing this happen is more of a like, it would be cool, and this seems to be the best best situation to be in, where you can just dynamically include it or not. But yeah, like Bogdan said, I mean, even megabytes, people probably aren't going to notice. So like, yeah, cool. I think that's where we call it today. This is probably going to be the I forgot to check stuff off. Oh well. I think I think that's where we're going to leave it with Verso. I'll toss this up as a separate PR. It's a good example to play around with, and especially with this like plugin polyfill. I think it's an interesting idea. I'll probably try to strip it down a little bit, but before I push it up. But if we can get that working, like, that seems to be the most ideal. And in theory, you could then include that as part of the Verso plugin. So if somebody uses the Verso plugin, you could just start polyfilling bits that don't exist actually in the like, if you wanted to use Servo directly, that's one situation. If you wanted to build on top of Servo, and that's why you're using Verso, polyfilling those pieces that aren't at feature parity yet might make sense as an actual reasonable default. So I think that's where we leave it. I think we're gonna set Verso stuff aside for a little bit, let it cook. If you're interested in getting involved, hop in Tauri Discord or hop in the issues and whatnot over there. There's a good amount of crossover between folks that are working in both. And we'll look at some Chrome embedded here soon in some fashion. I'm still figuring out the details about that. So look forward to that stream being scheduled. And until that happens, we might check off a couple of the other to-do things on our stream planning list. We have some, like looking at native dialogues. That might be a fun one in the near future here. But have a great rest of your week. Happy Tuesday. Join the Discord. There's a link. Boop. Go to the link. Join the Discord. Continue the conversation. Would love to have you. I see Bastion. Good to see you. Join the server. Have a great rest of your week. Happy Tuesday. See you next time. Bye.